Hello, everyone. Today is going to be a writing topic, and it's going to be realism versus reality. I will warn that this video could be considered triggering because of the subjects we're going to be talking about. So I apologize if it does trigger unpleasant memories. It's not my intention to hurt anybody, but it is to address a subject that, frankly, doesn't seem to get a lot of attention. At least I don't see it getting a lot of attention. And as I said, this is the topic of the video, realism versus reality. A lot of times when I see somebody write something, they'll put in things such as racism, rape, um, animal cruelty, things of that nature, and they'll put it in, and their justification is, well, that's what happens in the real world. Good. Okay, yes, that does happen in the real world. However, you don't always have to put it in your writing. And I'll explain. A lot of this is directed at fantasy authors. I will see fantasy authors who will have incest, rape, bestiality, things of that nature in their books. And when somebody presses them on it, they will say, well, hey, don't blame me. I'm just, we're talking about things that happen in the real world, that have really happened in the real world and stuff like that. But when you're writing a fantasy novel, you're creating your own world. You don't have to put those things in. And to be quite honest, sometimes it doesn't really need to be in there. I understand that sometimes there are moments of character development where things have to happen, but ultimately, as a fantasy author, what you choose to put in your work is what you choose to put in your work. You don't have to have those things in your world if you don't want them to. You can imagine a world where they don't exist or they almost never happen. You can do that because it's your world. It is a blank slate. You get to create it how you wish. So every time I see that from somebody where they're like, oh, I'm just being realistic. Yes and no. Yes, you are, but no, you don't have to. A little different when it comes to novels and things of the nature that are set in our reality, because unfortunately, in our reality, these things do exist. But again, you don't have to write about them. I'm not saying pretend that they don't exist because of it's shameful or nothing like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is you don't have to. You don't have to put these things in your writing. You don't have to put them in to be realistic. You just flat out don't. You can write something. If you're writing about, let's say, period of America where we had Jim Crow laws and racism was very much out in the open, or if you're writing about a historical figure that was raped and things like that, and you don't mention these things, then yes, you are not doing your due diligence. You're not actually doing your research. You are trying to sugarcoat something when doing so is actually more detrimental than it is for anybody's benefit. But that's not what this is about. This isn't about those cases, because those are rare cases. It is about you can imagine a world where these things don't happen, and you can make and how we get to that point is I'm not saying hide it, but I am saying that you just say, I'm not going to write about rape. I'm not going to write about this. I'm going to write about something else. And some may say that by saying this, that I'm contributing to the problem or I'm putting my head in the sand. I don't think so. I think that honestly, there's enough evil that already exists in the world. Most of the time when people read, they read as a form of escapism. They read to be transported someplace else. Again, doesn't mean that, and for the right works and stuff like that, not talking about these things honestly would be bad. It would actually do more harm than good. But there's a lot of situations where a writer will write about these things and try to justify it by saying, well, that's what happens in the real world. And that's a cop out. If you're going to write about it, just own up to it and go, yeah, I wrote about a rape. I thought it was important. Or I wrote about racism because I think that it is going to happen. Those kind of things. Don't ever hide behind. And it's a hiding technique. It's to just say, well, I don't blame me, blame humankind. Humankind does this. No, because if you're creating your own world, you get to decide what humankind did. Maybe in another reality with another world, maybe humankind hasn't grown up with racism and raping and things of that being commonplace. You don't ever have to accept that that's just the way it is. You don't have to accept that this is just the way it is in real life, and you certainly don't have to accept that this is just the way it is in your fiction. Not a long video, because like I said, it's not a pleasant topic, but it is something that it does irritate me when I read a review of an hour interview with an author and they just try to blow off people's honest questions, honest, critiques, and about things of those nature, and they just try to, it's really not that important, why are you focusing on that? Or people are focusing on it because for some people it is a huge deal. I mean, it should be a huge deal for everybody, but for some people it's a bigger deal. So you don't have to do any of these things. You choose to. And especially as a writer, you choose to create a world where these things happen. So just own up to it. Or write about something else. There are plenty of ways to deal with human drama, because that's what all stories eventually come down to, is humanity and our flaws and our strengths. So you can always create drama in different ways rather than falling back on our uglier aspects of our species. But then again, just my opinion. Thank you all for watching. I wouldn't say you enjoyed the video, but I hope the video was informative. If it was, please go ahead and give me a like down below, and I will talk to you all later.